In a world where narcissists thrive on control, illusion, and emotional chaos, there exists a rare kind of person who doesn't just survive, they rise above it all without ever needing to fight back directly. These individuals are called Super Empaths, and what sets them apart isn't aggression or domination, but something far more powerful: clarity, boundaries, and an unwavering sense of self. While narcissists manipulate, perform, and demand submission, Super Empaths do something completely unexpected. They stand still, they observe, and they reflect truth like a mirror. And often, that alone is enough to make the narcissist crumble. In today's video, we'll explore the silent strength of Super Empaths, how they outshine, outsmart, and ultimately overpower narcissists without lifting a finger in anger. From emotional intelligence to the quiet art of resistance, you'll discover why Super Empaths are the one type of person narcissists can't control, and the one they fear most. If you've ever been caught in a toxic dynamic, if you've questioned your worth or battled self-doubt at the hands of manipulation, this message is for you. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell, because every week we uncover the psychology of healing, strength, and the power of choosing yourself over chaos. Let's begin. 1. When the Super Empath strips the narcissist of their most dangerous weapon, control. As someone who has studied manipulation and personality disorders in depth, I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Narcissists do not fear resistance. They do not fear conflict. They don't even fear being disliked. What truly terrifies them, deep down, is losing control. They survive by controlling emotions, thoughts, and the reactions of others. They manipulate to maintain a perfect image, to preserve an illusion of power, and to believe they are the irreplaceable center of someone else's universe. But when a Super Empath enters the picture, that entire mechanism collapses. Super Empaths don't yell. They don't waste time trying to prove themselves right. They simply refuse to play along with the narcissist's script. And it's that quiet non-reaction, not rebellion, but a calm and unshakable self-possession, that unsettles the narcissist more than any confrontation ever could. Picture this. A narcissistic man walks into a room, expecting attention as usual. He brags, puts others down subtly, and waits for admiration. But the Super Empath doesn't engage in his drama. They offer a soft smile, change the subject, or simply leave the room without showing any emotional reaction. Not reacting is the ultimate form of reclaiming power. It screams, "I'm no longer under your control," and the Super Empath knows this deeply. "I don't need to change you, I just need to make sure you can't change me." Their strength lies not in confrontation, but in emotional awareness, a clarity that keeps them from being pulled into the narcissist's emotional whirlpool. And that awareness destroys the narcissist's most potent weapon, invisible manipulation. In Part 2, we'll explore what happens when the Super Empath starts setting boundaries, and the narcissist begins to realize they're no longer the center of the story. Stay tuned, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because this journey of understanding and outgrowing the narcissist only truly begins when you realize. 2. When the Super Empath sets boundaries and the narcissist begins to panic. Narcissists feed off emotional dependence like parasites clinging to the lifeblood of others. If you've ever encountered one, you'll recognize this unmistakable trait. They cannot tolerate silence. They can't handle distance. And they absolutely unravel when they're faced with rejection they didn't orchestrate. To them, relationships are not about mutual connection. They are about extracting supply, a constant stream of attention, emotional energy, and validation that feeds their bloated ego. They need you to stay close so they can pull the strings. They need your reactions to confirm their dominance. They need your dependence to maintain the illusion that they are the center of your world. But when they face a Super Empath, that script is shredded by a single powerful act: the setting of boundaries. Super Empaths don't set boundaries with explosive anger or cutting accusation. They do it with cool composure and a quiet confidence that doesn't need to be announced. They don't explain endlessly. They don't beg to be understood by someone who was never listening. They simply say, "I need space to be myself. If that makes you uncomfortable, perhaps it's time you ask yourself why. It sounds simple, but to a narcissist, that's a slow-burning detonation, because that sentence isn't just a boundary, it's a declaration of dignity, a reclaiming of autonomy, and a firm no. In psychology, we call this healthy self-assertion. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's a sign of knowing your worth and protecting it from emotional erosion. And that's when the narcissist begins to panic. Because if they can't force you into defense, if they can't make you feel guilty for choosing yourself, then their power no longer exists. They may retaliate, blame you, play the victim, even attempt to destroy your reputation, but the super empath understands. Peace never comes from pleasing others. It comes from knowing your boundaries and having the strength to hold them. In part 3, we'll uncover the one truth narcissists fear the most, that behind their arrogant facade lies a deeply wounded inner child, unhealed and terrified of exposure. And only the super empath has the intuition to see it. Stay with us. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because we're not just identifying manipulators, we're learning how to stand tall without ever needing to fight. 3. When the super empath sees the wound behind the narcissist's mask. Through years of studying narcissistic behavior and manipulation, I've come to understand one undeniable truth. Narcissists are never as strong as they want others to believe. Behind the mask of arrogance, control, and calculated detachment lies a dark, fragile core. The remnants of a wounded child, abandoned long ago. A child once dismissed, shamed, and forced into the exhausting performance of perfection in exchange for mere scraps of love. But the greatest tragedy isn't the wound itself. It's their refusal to face it. Instead, they construct an idealized ego, a towering facade of pride and control, to shield the vulnerability they would rather die than admit. And what narcissists fear most is being seen through. This is where the super empath becomes their invisible threat, not because they openly confront or challenge them, but because they see through them. They are not seduced by surface charm, nor are they swayed by flattery or psychological tricks. They detect the hollowness behind the smile, the inconsistencies between words and energy, and the brief flickers of insecurity masked by artificial confidence. In a conversation where the narcissist subtly dodges responsibility or changes the subject, most people might get swept along without even noticing. But the super empath, they remain calm, grounded, and say, "I hear what you're saying, but I also see what you're carefully avoiding. I'm not here to play along with deception. No anger, no accusations, just the sharp, undeniable weight of truth." To the narcissist, truth is the most dangerous weapon, because when the mask slips and the illusion of power dissolves, they are forced into the one corner they've spent a lifetime avoiding, facing themselves. The super empath doesn't naively believe they can rescue a narcissist. They don't cling to the fantasy that love or compassion can change someone who doesn't want to change. They simply hold up the mirror and say, "I can't help you if you continue to hurt me, and I'm not obligated to stay and prove anything." That is the true strength of the super empath. Not victory, freedom. Freedom from the narcissist's game. 4. When the words of the super empath become the sword of truth. In the narcissist's world, words are weapons. They use language to deceive, distract, and destabilize, crafting a false reality where they are always right, always superior. But in the presence of a super empath, that very weapon turns on them, not through harsh words, not through arguments, but through truth, delivered with clarity, intention, and emotional sovereignty. The super empath doesn't need to say much. Each word is precise, a scalpel that exposes what the narcissist desperately tries to hide. Most importantly, they don't play the emotional role the narcissist scripts for them. When a narcissist says, "This is all your fault, you always overreact," an average person might apologize, compromise, or explain. But the super empath calmly replies, "My feelings are valid, that I no longer take responsibility for what I didn't cause. No shouting, no tears. Just a clear, composed boundary, and suddenly the narcissist is suspended in a void where their power no longer works. In psychology, we call this radical reflective truth. You're not fighting with emotion. You're standing in the power of your authentic presence. The super empath knows, I don't need to scream to stand up for what's right. I just refuse to stay silent in the face of what's wrong. And that is what terrifies the narcissist most, because if they can't control the story, if they can't dictate your emotional response, then their illusion of dominance falls apart. The super empath doesn't need to debate. They simply refuse to cooperate with the lie, and the truth takes care of the rest. In Part 5, we'll explore one of the super empath's most powerful inner skills, setting firm boundaries and emotional distance, a move that leaves the narcissist no room to infiltrate or manipulate your inner world. Stay on this journey with me. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell, because your strength isn't measured by how many people you control. It's revealed when no one can control you. 5. When boundaries and distance become the super empath's impenetrable shield. In relationships with narcissists, closeness is not connection, it's a weapon. They need to get as close to you as possible, to observe you, to control you, to penetrate the most vulnerable corners of your emotions and make you question yourself. The closer they are, the more powerful they feel, the easier it is for them to manipulate, but the super empath doesn't allow that. Boundaries are the super empath's silent weapon. Not loud, not dramatic, but profoundly effective. They know the difference between love and self-destruction, between giving and losing oneself, and when they sense that a relationship is drifting away from mutual respect, they choose to step back, not because they're weak, but because they are too strong to let themselves be slowly eroded. The narcissist uses tactics like the silent treatment, hoping you'll panic, send messages, apologize, or spiral into self-doubt, but the super empath doesn't fall for it. They choose intentional silence, not to win, but to protect their emotional space. They simply say, I respect your space, and I need space for myself as well. To the narcissist, those words are a silent slap. No shouting, no accusations, just a clean, firm separation, a boundary they can't break through. In therapy, we call this restorative distancing, the act of consciously creating space to preserve one's emotional well-being, regardless of another's attempt to invade or manipulate. Super empaths don't close their hearts, but they shut the door on the narcissist's access to power. And when that door closes, the narcissist, who thrives on external validation, enters a crisis. 6. When the super empath rises and the narcissist realizes they've lost all power. There is one scenario narcissists are never prepared to face, the possibility that you not only survive after leaving them, but that you live better, brighter and freer, because deep down, narcissists believe you'll fall apart without them. They want to see you hurt, lost and broken, so they can reassure themselves, I was so important, you can't function without me. But the super empath never gives them that satisfaction. Instead of seeking revenge, the super empath chooses healing. Instead of trying to pull the narcissist back, they focus on building a meaningful life on their own terms. They start small, a quiet morning, a thriving houseplant, a painted canvas, a journal filled with gratitude, and step by step, they reconstruct themselves, not from ego, but from awareness. One day, as narcissists tend to do, they return, expecting to find the same old version of you, panicked, desperate, easy to manipulate, but what they see is a different person, a super empath, smiling, peaceful, grounded, radiant, and with no space left for the shadows they once cast. In psychology, this is the clearest sign of post-traumatic growth. Not just recovery, but becoming stronger and deeper than ever before. The super empath doesn't need an apology to close the chapter. They don't live for the narcissist's regret. They live for the peace they've reclaimed through their own inner work. And that a resurrection with no audience, no need for spectacle, is the narcissist's most painful defeat, because it proves one final, undeniable truth. You were never what made me whole. In Part 7, we'll reveal the complete portrait of the Super Empath, not just a survivor, but a beacon of light for anyone still navigating the storm. Stay with me and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell. Because your healing is not just about leaving the narcissist behind, it's about becoming who you were always meant to be. 7. The Super Empath. Not just a survivor, but a source of light. In the chaotic universe of wounded souls and manipulative minds, the Super Empath doesn't appear as a loud, triumphant warrior, but as a quiet, profound, and deeply powerful presence. Not because they are invincible, but because they choose not to let their wounds define who they are. They've fallen before. They've loved the wrong people, trusted the wrong hearts, and lost themselves in waves of self-doubt. But instead of shutting down, they opened their hearts for healing. Instead of becoming hard and defensive, they chose to remain resilient yet soft, like steel forged in fire, not brittle, but unbreakable. Super empaths don't just understand others' emotions, they understand themselves at the deepest level. They don't need a narcissist to admit fault. They don't wait for a late apology to close the chapter. They write the new chapter with their own hands, one where light doesn't just survive, it shines outward, guiding others still trapped in the dark. Imagine a man who spent 12 years in a marriage with a narcissistic wife. She controlled his feelings, his finances, even his inner world. He believed that leaving her meant failure, until one day he looked into the mirror and didn't recognize himself, so he walked away. No drama, no bitterness, just a suitcase and a soul longing to heal. Years later, he became a meditation coach, helping hundreds reconnect with the light within. That's victory. Quiet, but so profound no manipulator could ever touch it. The Super Empath. I don't need you to see me as strong. I just need to live true to the truth in my heart. And when they live that way, with authenticity, wisdom, and peace, they become a lighthouse, not to challenge anyone, not to prove anything, but simply to light the way for themselves and for those still lost in the dark. The narcissist may have stolen your trust, your time, even made you question your worth, but they could never touch the one thing that matters most, your decision to choose light over darkness. So if you find yourself somewhere in this journey, confused, hurt, or still in the process of healing, remember this: you are not alone. That strength you seek, it's already inside you. You are not a victim. You are not just a survivor. You are living proof of what happens when a soul chooses freedom. Thank you for being here. If this video touched your heart, share it. Let that light ripple outward. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Because here, we don't just talk about wounds, we talk about resurrection,